Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's Factorio Friday Facts discussion, number 396, Sound Improvements in 2.0. I'm Exterminator, and thanks for joining me today for this one. And, before anyone leaves or completely lose interest, I mean, I'm not saying sound stuff is bad. It's obviously maybe not as flashy or as exciting as like a new planet or something, which I was a little bit hoping for, but this is still really good stuff. And some of these things sound absolutely fantastic. So this is all just full improvements. Now, there is a lot of stuff, a lot of text here, so I have done a summarization. I'm just going to summarize very broadly a lot of this stuff, but it's going to be more like a show and tell because we get to just listen to all these sound clips of it, of all these improved and changed sounds. So we start off here with this first section, working sound accent. So basically, in 2.0, it's going to introduce the concept of sound accents, shorter sounds played as specific frames of an animation synchronized with machine animations. This may be a little bit the case now, but I think they're making it more this way in 2.0. Initially conceived with a few accents per machine, so it does exist a little bit, I think. The Foundry showcases a more complex implementation with 12 sound accents emphasizing different components and sections of the animation. So we're going to go ahead and just give this a listen here. All right, and sorry if the volume changed. I turned up my like computer volume or my recording volume a little bit, so hopefully you can hear these a bit better. And then you can see on the side here the display of like each sound working, which is pretty awesome. And honestly, this just sounds great. Now, like on its own, sounds really good. I'm not sure you'll be able to distinctively hear this among a bunch of other machines, but I think with all these changes, your factory will sound just generally way more interactive and better than it currently does. So this is awesome. And then see fast foundry on the left and very slow foundry on the right. So now we have two different speeds. Yeah, so this is obviously like slowed down past what it would normally be, but that way you can kind of just hear a bit of a difference there. And then multiple main working sounds. So basically, with the addition of sound accents, Factorio explores the possibility of having multiple main sounds for one machine. So you can see with the card here we're going to listen to, basically combining this with activity matching where sound volume or speed aligns with the machine's activity rate allows for more dynamic sound experiences such as sounds for idling or driving in vehicles. So I will say the car, I don't really notice much difference from what it currently is, but I do notice, I think, a more distinct difference from what the car sounds like to what the tank sounds like in comparison to what we have now with the two. And I absolutely love how the tank sounds. The kind of grinding of the treads, just the startup sound, it sounds like a much bigger, beefier, like diesel engine opposed to the car. It's definitely a really nice distinctive sound, and I really like how the tank sounds for sure. And then of course trains couldn't go without the treatment as well, so they have more distinct sounds, and then the sounds also change when you go onto elevated rails, which is pretty awesome. And I'm just thinking, like, can you imagine what this is gonna sound like if you have an entire intersection of like raised rail and over ramps and stuff with how the sound changes on them going up and over and just being elevated? It's gonna sound, it's gonna be maybe a lot of sound, but it's gonna sound really, really good. I think my only complaint here, and this is a super small nitpick, is I do wish the train sounded like beefier itself, like the locomotive. Now this is probably, I mean, maybe this sounds better in theory than it would be in reality because it would become quite loud and stuff with your trains constantly going by. But especially when it starts up, I wish it sounded more like the tank and like even more of a like rumble deep thing. That like if anyone's ever been, you know, next to a locomotive, these you know, especially a hacked together one like this, these these you know, especially like diesel and stuff locomotives are not quiet. They're very loud, probably louder than a tank. And right here, I think it's quieter than the car even. So I'm just that's my only little tiny nitpick with this, but otherwise I really love these sounds. Super super cool. And then we come down here to additional machine sounds. So going into the large mining drills here, a new system called additional sounds allows for implementation of sounds beyond working sounds, providing a more immersive experience for various entities and environments. And then we can kind of get an example of these drills here. And this just sounds so cool. I really appreciate the fact that they were detailed enough to have it. You can hear the sound as it like cranks along the um, like rails here. Then and then you can hear it drilling, but especially when it moves back and forth, it just sounds so good. This is gonna be absolutely awesome. Just walk by a mining patch of these and just hear these things going. It's definitely going to sound like you are just like exploiting the planet for everything it has. Essentially, like this is some very heavy equipment sounding stuff, which I really really like. And then ambient sounds, which I think is actually one of my more favorite parts of this. I mean, the other things are all really good, but I have noticed the ambient sound in Factorio is I don't know the right word, maybe a little dull. You know, it's mostly kind of just like wind, and I mean this kind of music, of course. The actual game sounds, if you're not near your factory, are pretty quiet, but they've now added a bunch of uh, new stuff with this. So you know, they can add sounds now based on like the specific location a player is at for ambient sound. So basically, they say for this we couldn't use the usual game industry approach of ambient trigger boxes or pre-painted regions because our maps are generated, not handmade. So we came up with the idea of adding sounds to tiles and entities based on specific conditions. So once they had the tech in place, they started to add sounds such as gentle water lap to bodies of water and leaf rustles to trees. And then they realized that they could have like invisible creatures and stuff. For example, small non-hostile alien birds in the trees that only play if the player is within a certain radius of trees, numbering above a specific threshold. There's also a random pause between each sound. Taking this idea further, we are able to specify whether they play according to the time of day or the zoom level of the camera, which is super neat. Now, this they say next time you're setting a forest on fire, remember it might be someone's home, which as someone who you know very much likes cares about animals and stuff like that in nature, it's this makes me a little mad now because I love burning, like I love discarding how I feel about that in a game and just like destroying every forest possible in Factorio. But now I think I may actually feel a little too bad to do that if there's, you know, you like hear some birds chirping and stuff and then you just catch the whole thing on fire. uh, not gonna be as satisfying as it was. And this sounds, I mean, this just is like, this is why this is one of my favorite things. I just, if you just go stand somewhere outside your factory, it can actually maybe be a little bit peaceful. This sounds really, really nice. It sounds like when you go to like a zoo or you're in a museum and they have those like little areas you can go and they play like the sounds of the animals. It kind of sounds like that, but like more natural. This is just a really, really nice addition to things where it just makes the whole world feel more alive. I think really the only thing for me is the sound of the water doesn't really obviously sync up with the water because the water doesn't actually move. That maybe would bother me a tiny bit, but really it's not a big deal, and this is just absolutely awesome. Other sound improvements, item sounds. So, basically, item-specific inventory sounds are introduced, providing unique feedback when moving items. Advanced volume control properties offer finer adjustments, including attenuation with distance, zoom level, darkness threshold, and dynamic sound modifiers for specific game context. So we can kind of give this part a listen. So I like that. It's a small thing, but it's just more unique, sound specific to what the item is, the chest, the inserters. All those sound a little bit different, which just adds to the entire kind of ambience and feeling of the game and stuff as you play it. So I think, like I said, small thing, but it all adds up for sure, especially with something like sound. Is if it's done right, all the little things add up to make a really, really good experience. And then, yeah, I went into the volume control, so basically, like I just said, you can way more volume control adjustments now. And then sound aggregation and priority systems manage resource allocation for sounds, ensuring important sounds take precedence in crowded scenarios, which is really good. So this kind of goes back to what I was saying about like if you're in a crowded, like a very large factory with a bunch of stuff, what are you going to hear? And it sounds like this maybe kind of addresses that. So they just say, basically what I just said. If there's biters, turrets, and stuff happening, it's a lot of sound. And there wasn't a hard limit on the number of sounds that can play at a given time and quickly turn into a wall of noise. So for 2.0, the system was greatly improved to be usable by most sounds, and control over sounds will be adjusted, was added. Improved to be usable in most sounds, and more control over sounds will be okay. So with these changes, the soundscape of those problematic scenarios is now under control. So that's really good to hear as well. And then sound priority. So related to the problem of having too many sounds is that sometimes there wouldn't be enough resources left for more important sounds. For example, GUI effects or certain player tasks. The obvious solution is to introduce a priority system for sounds, and that's exactly what they did. So kicking things off, many player actions like building were given a higher priority, and several biter sounds were deprioritized, which is nice. So when you get attacked by a huge swarm of biters, you're not not overwhelmed by the sounds, right? And then the test suite, basically a comprehensive audio test suite is developed to ensure the reliability and quality of audio features and fixes, which is pretty awesome. And then they say having such a test suite proved extremely helpful when redesigning or expanding different parts of the audio system, and is very helpful to make sure those pesky bugs won't creep their way back in. And then lastly, the music. I am sure you all want to hear about new music coming in Factorio Space Age, but we are saving that for future Friday Facts. Stay tuned. So new music is awesome. Really interested to see what they're going to do with, to kind of tie it into the Space Age stuff. And then the last thing, which is honestly bigger than, maybe initially realize, is all these newer improved features, with the exception of the custom logic of additional sounds, are available in prototypes. Modders will be able to use them in the same way as we do in-house. So having modders be able to access this is really, really nice too. It'll be interesting to see what kind of stuff is done with that. But there we go. I mean, tons of cool things to listen to. Overall, I think this is just huge. It's it's another kind of behind the scenes quality of life thing, but when you add all these things together, it just makes the gameplay and the experience so much better. And I think we're really gonna be blown away by just the sheer overall quality of 2.0 once you combine all of these things together when we actually get our hands on it. So there we go. fingers crossed, maybe next Friday will be a very new content heavy thing. But again, don't really want to complain because this is still fantastic stuff. And I believe that is going to do it. I would love to hear what you think down below. If you're excited for the new sounds, definitely drop a like on the video. And I'd also like to hear if there's any of these sounds you don't like, or things should be changed. But if you're new as well, welcome. And feel free to subscribe to keep up with future content. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.